Okay, the next step is to sew our next flower on. And this is probably the most difficult part for me. I don't know if it'll be for you, but it was for me. Because when I look at this, I know that my points are going to go inside. But when I flip this over to want to sew this on, I'm thinking, how's that going to sew to that, right? And so the first time I did it, I sewed it like that. And it doesn't work that way. So it has to be, your points have to go in the center. And so in other words, to sew this on, you're going to do it just like you sewed the little hexagons on. And so what you're going to do is you're going to match up your piece just like normal. And so we're going to sew this piece on, and I am sewing, it does feel like I'm sewing backwards, and I don't know why. So I'm going to sew that piece on. So I'm going to put this like this where it's off, and then I am going to sew my 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to match these two up and then I'm going to sew my 1/4 of an inch from point to point without sewing this in. And so once I get that, I've sewed that, my 1/4 of an inch, then I'm going to flip it. And so I'm going to work it just like I was working. So you're going to have to do a lot of turning. So this is what makes it more difficult. There's going to be a lot of turning. So then I'm going to sew this, match these up. And then because my needle's on this side, I've got to bring it through to the other side. And then I'm going to sew my 1/4 of an inch, just like I did earlier. Making sure that this doesn't move. And I always do a back stitch right here. And then I'm going to flip this. And so you're just moving these a lot. So it's a little awkward more than anything, but it is confusing until you get the first one. But you just got to remember, you're not going to be sewing on point. And so that is what is confusing when you're trying to put it together. That's what confused me. And so you got to remember, this is my first time. I mean, I've made some Grandmother's Flower Garden flowers, but I've never sewed the quilt together before. So this is my first time too. So I am, as I'm showing you guys this, I am learning. So I am learning right along with you. And I don't know why I'm back stitching, because I don't need to back stitch yet. And so once again, I'm going to flip it. And then I've got to bring my needle through. Until I get my 1/4 of an inch, or until I get to the end. And I'm going to check it before I move on, because I don't know if this is where I need to stop or if I need to do one more. I know this is a longer video, but I'd rather show you step by step than just leave it. And so I need to do one more because I got to sew this up there. So then I'm going to flip it back. And then there's a lot of moving in it. And so I'm doing mine by row. You can do yours different ways. This is, I mean, there's different ways of doing things. I know that's not even, but I'll straighten it up here in just a second. Sorry if I'm getting out of the camera. I'm trying not to. This is just really hard. I need to get me a little camera that goes like in front of me. I hope this is helping you guys. That's all I want to do, is I want you guys to be able to see how to put this together. And this one I did not mark, so I'm going to have to guess. For some reason, my 1/4 of an inch isn't there, so we're going to stop right there. Or it could have just faded, because I'm using a pencil, and so sometimes pencils do fade. But I won't need it after I get my hexagon sewed on. So then we're going to cut our thread. And then we have our next flower. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take, and I'm going to my hexagons that are marked, and then I'm going to sew just like I would sew my hexagons on normal. And so I'd pull that down, and then I would sew this on, and then I would end up sewing here, and I would do 8 all the way until I get right here. So I hope that helps, and then you're just going to continue to do that until you get a row done.